Okay, you're going to learn something new now today. Before we start, we need a little warm-up activity. You need to identify the groups of terms that combine to a sum of 0. Now, two terms add to 0 if you have a positive and a negative of the same number, okay? So do I have a positive and a negative of the same number there? Yes, I do, so I circle that. Do I have a positive and a negative of the same number there? No, they're both negatives, so we don't circle that. Well, these ain't even the same number, so we're not circling that. They're the same number, but they're both positives, okay? Positive and a negative of the same number. Negative 10y plus 10y. 6y plus 18y. No, they're not even the same. Negative 7x plus 7x, a positive and a negative of the same value, okay? 10y plus 10y, now they're the same value, but they're not they're both positives, so that would not add to 0. 5x plus 12y, no, those don't add to 0. Well, we got a positive and a negative, the same number, 12y plus negative 12y. 2x plus 2x, no, that's 4x, they're both positives. They're not even the same, they're not even the same. So the reason I circled these is because I had a positive and a negative of the same number, and that's what we're looking for today. Okay, so these are the notes. That first page, I mean, if you didn't want to write that down, you didn't have to. But now you need to write it down. The directions at the top, solve using elimination. This says elimination. Did not write it very well. Okay, here's your system of equations. 2x plus 5y equals 17, and then 6x minus 5y equals negative 9. So you need to find where these lines cross, x, y. Now, little problem here. You're going to make your wall, but you don't have an x or a y by itself. So we don't have a base, so you put no base. So I don't use that substitution that I've been using. Now, if I don't have a base, here's what I'm going to do. This is for later. I'm going to copy down the first equation. This is for later. I'm going to do it right here. That's for later. We're not going to come down there until we have to find the second letter. Well, how do you find the first? You're going to make a little thing down the middle. You're going to write add. Okay? Now, plus negative, and what you do is you add vertically, okay? Don't write it down until either the x's or the y's add to 0, okay? So, I take 2 and add 6. Well, that's not going to be 0, okay? It's 8. Don't write 8 down yet, okay? We don't write anything down until we make sure that either this or this adds to 0. This over here, I don't care about adding to 0. It's either the x's or the y's. So 2 plus 6, not 0. How about 5 plus negative 5? Well, they're opposites of the same number, so they add to 0. So now you write it down. You're adding. You're always going to be adding. So that's 8x plus 0y, and then equals. Then you take 17 and add negative 9. You're basically adding it into one equation, 8. Now, I want you to put the 0y, but then cross it out because it's gone, okay? Now, dot and circle, 8 times x equals 8. Then I divide each side by 8, and I figure out that x equals 1. So put a 1 on your x. Now, how do you find y? Well, you're going to put 1. 1 goes in for x. Now, I want you to circle 2 times 1 now. Okay, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 5y equals 17. Then wall dot circle, and I take the 2 out, minus 2, it's positive. That's 15. Then I divide by 5. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. So y equals 3. Okay. Next problem. 5x plus negative 6y equals negative 32. Now bottom, 3x plus 6y equals 48. So again, there's no base, okay? So if there's no base, you're going to write that first equation down and put it in your back pocket, save it for later. You can write the second one too. I usually write the first one. All right, now let's add. So don't write them down until you know that either the x's or the y's add to 0. So 5 plus 3 is 8. Negative 6 plus 6. Well, I'm adding opposites of the same numbers, so that's going to be 0. So I write 8x plus 0y, and then I take negative 32 plus 48. I'm always plussing here. Well, if I have 0 in front of a variable, then that variable is gone, okay? Because 0 times anything 0, okay? So that means it's gone, so is the plus. 8 times x equals 16, so I divide by 8, and x equals 2. So 2 is the value for x. Now to find the y value, we put that 2 in for x. So circle that because that means you got to times those, okay? 5 times 2 is 10. Line up your equals, put your negative 32. And that's 10 plus negative 6y. Wall dot circle. Now we're going to solve for y. Get rid of your 10. Negative 32 minus 10 is negative 42. And then we divide by negative 6. Okay, negative 42 divided by negative 6 is 7. So y is equals 7. So 2, 7 is the solution to the system. Okay, next problem. Now you got to do something else here. 6x plus 5y equals 39, 3x plus 5y equals 27. So again, we don't have that base variable by itself, so no base. So then I write the top equation, 6x plus 5y equals 39. That's for later. Now we're going to add, we're always plussing. 6 plus 3 is 9, and 5 plus 5 is 10. Well, neither one of those makes 0. Okay, if they don't make 0, here's what you do. Does x or y have the same number in front? Yeah, the y's do. So I label the y, put the word same above the y's. Now, if you have the same, what you can do with one of the equations, do the second one. Just stay consistent with it. You make all the second ones opposite, okay? So, what's the opposite of positive 3? Negative 3. What's the opposite of positive 5? Negative 5. What's the opposite of positive 27? Negative. You got to make that negative 2. Now, try to add them again. Now you're going to get 0 because these are opposites of the same number, okay? So, 6 plus negative 3 is 3x. 5 plus negative 5 is 0, so plus 0y. We'll cross it out here in a bit. Then I take 39 plus negative 27, and I got 12. So the term that ended up as 0, we remove that from the equation, and we have 3 times x equals 12. So now I divide by 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So x is 4. Now we've got to find y. So 4 goes in for x. And we take 6 times 4, that's going to be 24, plus 5y equals 39. Okay, so dot circle, take out your positive 24 by minusing it. 39 minus 24 is 15. Now divide by 5, and 15 divided by 5 is 3, so y is 3. Okay, x plus y equals 101. 2.5x plus y equals 164. So I do not have the x or y by itself. So I place ones in front if there's nothing there. And write down the top one. 1x plus 1y equals 101. So now I see if I can add them to 0. Well, that's 3 point. You're always plussing. That's 3.5. 1 plus 1's 2. So that doesn't work the way it's written. But do you have the same number in front of x? No. How about y? Yes, you do. You got a same right there. So we make the bottom opposite. The opposite of 2.5 is negative 2.5. The opposite of positive 1 is negative 1. And the opposite of 164 is negative 164. Now I have opposites of the same number. Okay? So I should get 0. So 1 plus negative 2.5, now that's not going to be 0, but 1 plus negative 1 on the y's, that's 0. Okay? So this was negative 1.5x plus 0y, and then 101 plus negative 164 is negative 63. Now you can take out the 0 term. That doesn't need to be, that's not there anymore. Because even though I don't know what y is, I know that if you take it times 0, it's 0. It's out. So we go to divide by negative 1.5. And that finds the answer for x. Don't put anything in that square there. That's for later. That's for later in a later lesson. If you don't have anything, if you don't have 0 and you don't have anything, that's the same. Okay, I got 42 for x, so x equals 42. And to find y, 42 goes in for x, get the x out of there. So 42 plus 1y equals 101. And then you mark your times, take your 42 to 0. So 101 minus 42 is 59. Then divide by 1, and 59 divided by 1 is 59. Okay. All right, last two. Now, sometimes it's the x's that add to 0. So, we'll on the side of the variable. So there's no base. So if I don't have a base, I'm going to save that top one for later. 2x plus 6y equals 22. Now I got to look up here. So we got 2x and 2x, 6y and 3y, 22 and 4. So we write the word add. Now don't write anything down until you make sure either that or that is 0. I don't care if that is, okay? So 2 plus 2 is 4, okay? Not 0. 6 plus 3 is 9. That's not 0 either. So no luck there. Now, but you do have the same term or number in front of the x's. Now you just need to make negative, negative, negative. Because if I'm adding, plussing opposites of the same number, a positive and a negative, that's 0 every time. So 0x, 6 plus negative 3 is 3y. You're always plussing them. And then 22 plus negative 4 is 18. Now the x term is gone. Okay, so I'll be solving for y first here. So now I divide by 3, and 18 divided by 3 is 6, but that's the answer for y. Okay, so 6 then goes in for y this time. Now put 6 times 6 and figure out what that is. Now first we got 2x plus, then when I get to my circle I take 6 times 6. 36. Y is not connected to 36. It's gone. Then times and plus, so minus 36, minus 36. 22 minus 36 is negative 14. Then we divide each side by 2, and negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. So x equals negative 7, and I have found the solution. Okay, last one. Negative 3x minus 3y equals 9. And then 3x minus 4y equals 5. Pause the video and write that down if you need to. I have to find where x and y, what the value is for each variable if these two equations are the case. That's a negative, plus negative, plus negative. And again, we don't have a base, that's quite apparent, okay? So I write down the top equation, negative 3x plus negative 3y equals 9. That's for later. And now I organize my work and I add either the x's or the y's. You have to have a 0x or a 0y. Now these are opposites of the same number, so I think those add to 0 right there, which they do. So I don't need to apply the opposite rule in the bottom equation. So I just go from what I have. Then negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7y. Then 9 plus 5 is 14. Both those are positives, so that's easy to figure out. 0 times x eliminates the x, and that plus sign's gone too. Okay, so I divide each side by negative 7, and y then equals negative 2. Now negative 2 now goes in for y, and then circle that because you got to find that product. So you got your negative 3x plus, then when I get to the circle I need to multiply. Negative times negative is a positive, 3 times 2 is 6, equals 9. Now get your 6 out of there. 9 minus 6 is 3, so negative 3 times x equals 3. Now we divide each side by negative 3, and that's equals negative 1. Okay.